Have you ever wondered what really happened to the wives of the fallen angels? Did you know that the Bible and ancient texts hold secrets that few dare to reveal? Today, you will discover the role of Archangel Michael in this hidden story, the mysteries behind the fallen angels, and how these events changed the course of the world according to the oldest scriptures. Get ready to uncover truths that most people never dare to tell. Have you ever wondered who the fallen angels really were and why their story is so shocking? Before talking about what Archangel Michael did with their wives, we need to understand who these beings were, how they deviated from their purpose, and why their presence changed the history of the world according to ancient texts. Fallen angels are not just a myth. They are figures that appear in the Bible, the Book of Enoch, and other apocryphal writings, representing a mix of heavenly power, rebellion, and earthly consequences that still generate mystery and debate today. According to tradition, angels were created by God as perfect beings, guardians of justice, and messengers of heaven. They possessed knowledge, power, and a direct connection to the divine. However, some disobeyed, questioned divine authority, and began acting according to their own desires, marking their fall. In the Bible, the book of Genesis mentions the sons of God who joined with the daughters of men, a reference many scholars associate with these rebellious angels. Although the text is brief, later tradition develops this story more explicitly, showing that their disobedience had profound consequences. The Book of Enoch, a highly influential apocryphal text, expands on this narrative and gives names to several of these fallen angels, known as the Watchers. They descended to earth and began teaching humans forbidden knowledge, from magical arts to warfare techniques and secrets about the heavens. This act of teaching the forbidden symbolizes their rebellion. They not only disobeyed, but also corrupted humanity by introducing information meant solely for the divine. The result was a world filled with chaos, violence, and confusion, according to ancient texts. One of the best-known consequences of the fallen angels' interaction with humans was the appearance of the Nephilim, hybrid beings with extraordinary characteristics, huge and powerful, who became feared and legendary figures. These descendants blended the celestial with the human, creating a legacy that, according to tradition, disrupted the natural and spiritual order of the earth. The Nephilim are mentioned in Genesis and other texts, and their existence is considered one of the main reasons God intervened more directly in humanity, including the flood and subsequent heavenly oversight. The impact of the fallen angels is not limited to their direct disobedience. Their story also raises questions about free will, authority, and morality. They represent what happens when beings endowed with power choose to stray from the right path, serving as a warning about the dangers of arrogance and transgression. Furthermore, their influence on humans and the transmission of forbidden knowledge show that their actions had tangible consequences, creating a world where the divine and human dangerously intertwined. In summary, the fallen angels were celestial beings who chose to disobey God, interacted with humans, and left a legacy that changed the spiritual and physical history of the earth. Their fall, their teachings, and the creation of the Nephilim reveal a world full of mystery, power, and consequences beyond everyday understanding. Understanding who these angels were and what they did is crucial to grasping Archangel Michael's role and the story surrounding their wives, which we will explore in the following sections of the video. Have you ever wondered why Archangel Michael is considered the great protector and how his role connects to the story of the fallen angels? To understand what he did with their wives, we first need to know his mission, his power, and his influence in both heavenly and earthly events according to biblical tradition and ancient texts. Michael is not just a celestial warrior. He is the guardian of divine justice, a mediator between the human and the divine, and the main opponent of those who defy God's will. In the Bible, Michael appears as the leader of the heavenly armies and defender of God's people. In the Book of Daniel, he is described as a great prince who protects Israel, tasked with intervening in critical moments to safeguard divine justice. This role makes him a central figure in the battle against the fallen angels, who disrupted the natural and spiritual order by rebelling against God and mingling with humanity. Michael is, therefore, the executor of the divine plan to restore balance, and his authority is absolute within the heavenly realm. According to the Book of Enoch, Michael, along with other archangels like Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, was specifically sent to oversee the fall of the Watchers and the consequences of their transgressions. His task included punishing the rebellious angels, containing their malevolent influence, and protecting humanity from the spiritual corruption these beings introduced. Michael acts as judge and guardian, ensuring that the angels' disobedience does not continue to affect creation. This intervention demonstrates not only his strength and authority, but also his role as intermediary between divine justice and human protection. One of Michael's most intriguing actions, according to apocryphal texts and mystical traditions, relates to the wives of the fallen angels. The rebellious angels not only descended to earth, but took human wives, giving rise to the Nephilim, hybrid beings combining celestial and human traits. This union was considered forbidden and dangerous because it disrupted the natural and spiritual order. Michael, as the guardian of divine justice, intervened directly to prevent this transgression from continuing and to contain the effects of these unions, demonstrating his role as protector of the balance between heaven and earth. Tradition holds that Michael not only punished the fallen angels, but also controlled and supervised their wives, preventing their influence from spreading excessively. Some texts suggest these women were protected or confined under heavenly watch, not as arbitrary punishment, but to preserve the integrity of creation and prevent spiritual corruption from spreading. This action shows a strategic and protective side of Michael's mission. It was not only about punishment, but also about containment and restoration of divine order. Michael also symbolizes the struggle between obedience and rebellion. His confrontation with the fallen angels is not only physical, but spiritual and moral. He represents divine authority against transgression, human protection against corruption, and the defense of sacred law against chaos. This moral and spiritual dimension explains why his intervention with the fallen angels' wives is so significant. He ensures that cosmic balance and divine justice remain intact, even in the face of forbidden and dangerous acts. Gnostic and mystical traditions add that Michael also acted as a spiritual mediator, teaching humans how to resist the influence of the fallen angels and their descendants. His role is not limited to force or containment, but includes guidance, protection, and spiritual education. This reinforces the idea that his mission is comprehensive: combat, protection, and restoration of order, ensuring humanity can fulfill its purpose without being dominated by celestial corruption. In summary, Archangel Michael is far more than a celestial warrior. He is the defender of divine order, protector of humanity, and executor of justice against the fallen angels. His intervention with their wives demonstrates not only his power and authority, but also his strategic and moral role in preserving creation's integrity. Understanding who Michael is and his functions prepares us to explore in detail who these wives were and how their union with the fallen angels affected history according to ancient texts and esoteric traditions. Have you ever wondered who the wives of the fallen angels really were, and why their story has remained hidden for centuries? These women were not ordinary mortals. According to ancient and apocryphal texts, they played a crucial role in events that disrupted the balance between the divine and human. Understanding who they were, how they joined with the rebellious angels, and the consequences of this union allows us to unravel a mystery that most people are unaware of, and that influences the narrative of the Nephilim and Archangel Michael's intervention. According to the Book of Enoch, these women were daughters of men, humans of varied lineage living on earth before the arrival of the fallen angels. Tradition holds that the angels descended intending to teach, guide, and in many cases, corrupt humanity. However, these encounters were not limited to knowledge transmission. Desire arose, leading to forbidden unions. The wives of the fallen angels became companions of celestial beings, defying divine law and creating a new hybrid generation, the Nephilim, combining human and celestial attributes. These unions were seen as serious transgressions because they disrupted the natural order established by God. Angels were created for specific functions, not to mingle with humanity, and these relationships represented a deviation that caused spiritual and physical chaos. The wives, though human, became carriers of knowledge and energy that transcended the earthly realm, playing a central role in spreading these influences. Texts describe these women as aware of the prohibition, yet many succumbed to the angels' power and allure, showing how free will and desire can have transcendent consequences. The impact of these unions is most evident in the Nephilim, gigantic and powerful beings who inherited both human attributes and supernatural abilities. These creatures were seen as a threat to humanity and God's plan because they mixed the divine and human in ways that altered the original balance of creation. The wives of the fallen angels, by conceiving the Nephilim, played a direct role in spreading this hybrid influence, explaining why Michael intervened to contain and oversee the situation. The narrative shows that these women were neither mere victims nor villains, but central figures in a process with cosmic implications. Some texts suggest the wives possessed special knowledge acquired through their interaction with the angels. They learned secrets of astrology, magic, medicine, and other occult sciences not meant for humanity. This forbidden knowledge created imbalance because it could be used destructively or to alter human perception of the sacred. Michael's intervention, according to tradition, involved not only punishing the angels, but also protecting these women and humanity from the negative effects of that knowledge, demonstrating a strategic and moral approach to his mission. From a symbolic perspective, the wives of the fallen angels represent temptation, transgression, and the impact of free will. Their story explains the origin of the Nephilim and serves as a warning about the dangers of breaking divine laws and mingling with forces not fully understood. At the same time, their presence shows that humanity is not passive before the divine. Human decisions, even when influenced by the supernatural, have significant and lasting consequences. In mystical and esoteric tradition, these wives also symbolize the connection between the human and the celestial. Some interpretations suggest their role was necessary for transmitting certain knowledge and spiritual evolution, though in a limited and controlled way. Michael's intervention did not seek to destroy them, but to regulate the influence of these bonds and preserve cosmic balance, showing that even in transgression there is a purpose within the divine plan. In summary, the wives of the fallen angels were humans who joined with celestial beings, producing the Nephilim and transmitting forbidden knowledge. Their story is complex. They represent desire, transgression, learning, and cosmic consequences. Understanding who they were and their role helps contextualize Michael's intervention and better understand the dynamic between the human and divine, as well as the impact these unions had on humanity according to ancient texts. Have you ever wondered what Archangel Michael really did with the wives of the fallen angels, and why this intervention is so crucial in ancient accounts? The story does not end with the union of the rebellious angels and human women. According to apocryphal texts and mystical traditions, Michael played a direct and decisive role in controlling the consequences of these unions and restoring the order that had been disrupted. Understanding his actions allows us to uncover hidden secrets about celestial justice, human protection, and cosmic balance. Ancient texts describe that after the fall of the angels and the conception of the Nephilim, the situation on earth became chaotic. These unions not only produced hybrid offspring, but also transmitted forbidden knowledge and powers humans were not prepared to handle. Humanity was under the direct influence of beings who had defied divine authority, and their power could lead the world to total corruption. It was in this context that Michael intervened directly, fulfilling his role as protector and guardian of divine order. According to the Book of Enoch, Michael was specifically sent to contain and oversee the fallen angels and their wives. His task was not merely punishment, but also to protect these women from a worse fate and prevent their influence from spreading uncontrollably. This suggests that Michael acted with a dual purpose: to ensure divine justice over the rebellious angels and simultaneously limit the negative impact of these unions on humanity. His intervention shows a combination of power, strategy, and mercy, characteristics that distinguish him as leader of the heavenly armies. Some sources suggest Michael confined or watched over the wives of the fallen angels in specific locations, preventing them from continuing to transmit forbidden powers or knowledge to humanity. This action should not be understood as arbitrary punishment, but as a measure to preserve the integrity of creation. Michael acted as a regulator, ensuring that what had been corrupted by rebellion did not spread uncontrollably, and that the Nephilim, though present, did not completely dominate the earth. His intervention is presented as an act of divine justice, balance, and strategic protection. Additionally, Michael supervised the fate of the fallen angels, imprisoning them or limiting their influence on earth. Ancient texts describe how these beings were bound and guarded, so that their capacity to corrupt was significantly reduced. This action reflects not only his authority, but also his role as executor of the divine plan, ensuring that disobedience did not perpetuate and that humanity could develop within safe limits. Michael's intervention combines aspects of justice, containment, and regulation, showing that his role was far more complex than a simple celestial battle. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss more content like this. That way, you'll always be up to date with our upcoming videos. Now, let's continue. A lesser-known aspect is that Michael also provided spiritual guidance to humans affected by these unions. He taught how to resist the influence of the fallen angels and their descendants, how to discern between the divine and the corrupt, and how to remain faithful to God's will. His intervention, therefore, was not only physical, but also educational and protective, ensuring humanity could fulfill its purpose without succumbing to corruption. This combination of strength and teaching shows a comprehensive approach to his mission. Mystical tradition adds another dimension. Some texts suggest Michael acted to restore cosmic balance, regulating the energy the wives of the fallen angels had transmitted to their children. In this interpretation, Michael was not only correcting errors, but balancing spiritual and cosmic forces so that divine order was maintained. This action shows that even the darkest and most forbidden events can be contained and redirected to fulfill a greater purpose within the celestial plan. In summary, Michael's intervention with the wives of the fallen angels was strategic, moral, and cosmic. He not only punished the rebellious angels and limited their influence, but also protected these women, regulated the effects of their unions, and taught humanity how to resist corruption. Michael acts as guardian, mediator, and executor of the divine plan, demonstrating that even in the deepest transgression, there is a purpose of justice and balance. Understanding this intervention is key to exploring mystical interpretations and the impact these stories had on spiritual tradition, which we will cover in the next section on esoteric and symbolic perspectives. Have you wondered if behind the story of the fallen angels and their wives, there is a deeper meaning hidden from plain sight? Beyond the literal, many mystical and esoteric traditions interpret these events as symbols of spiritual forces, archetypes, and lessons that transcend the physical story. Exploring these perspectives allows us to understand the story of Michael, the fallen angels, and their wives from an angle that connects the divine, human, and cosmic. In esoteric tradition, the fallen angels represent the rebellion of consciousness against divine order. Their fall is not only literal, but also symbolic. It reflects the internal struggle between obedience and transgression, between light and darkness within each being. The wives of these angels are seen as bearers of forbidden knowledge and spiritual potential not intended for humanity. Their union with the angels symbolizes the mixing of the divine with the human and the possibility of transcending limits, but also the risks of imbalance and corruption. Michael, from this perspective, acts as guardian of spiritual balance. His intervention with the wives of the fallen angels is not limited to justice or punishment, but also aims to contain and regulate powerful energies that could alter the natural flow of creation. Mystical texts describe how his vigilance ensures that the influence of the forbidden does not spread uncontrollably, maintaining cosmic harmony and protecting humanity from forces that could divert it from its spiritual purpose. Some scholars of Gnostic tradition suggest these stories also have an initiatory meaning. The wives of the fallen angels and the Nephilim represent obstacles and challenges that the soul must face to grow. Michael symbolizes the divine guidance that helps overcome these trials, teaching how to discern between positive and corrupt influence. From this perspective, the accounts not only explain historical events, but also serve as spiritual lessons for those seeking to understand the mysteries of the cosmos and the relationship between the celestial and human. Another esoteric interpretation views these accounts in terms of cosmic energies and archetypes. The fallen angels represent forces of impulse, desire, and rebellion, while their wives symbolize receptivity and transmission of knowledge. Michael's intervention is understood as the imposition of order, as the balance between masculine and feminine energy, light and shadow, control and freedom. This reading shows that the story is not only about punishment, but about regulation, balance, and transformation of energies, impacting both the spiritual and material planes. Moreover, esoteric tradition emphasizes the importance of human consciousness in the face of celestial influence. The wives of the fallen angels and the Nephilim symbolize how humans can be affected by external forces if they do not develop discernment and spirituality. Michael, by containing and guiding these forces, also represents the possibility for humanity to learn to protect itself, grow spiritually, and maintain connection with the divine, avoiding corruption from improper mixing of the human and celestial. In conclusion, from a mystical and esoteric perspective, the story of the fallen angels, their wives, and Michael's intervention transcends the literal narrative. These accounts represent spiritual forces, archetypes, and lessons on obedience, balance, forbidden knowledge, and discernment. Michael is not only a celestial warrior, but a guardian of cosmic order and spiritual guide. Understanding these symbols allows us to see the story with a depth that connects the human, divine, and cosmic, setting the stage to explore how these stories influenced humanity and perceptions of the sacred, a topic we will address in the next section on the legacy and impact of these events. Have you ever wondered how the story of the fallen angels and their wives has impacted humanity over time? Beyond being an ancient account, these stories have left a deep legacy influencing how we understand good, evil, obedience, and spirituality. Understanding the impact of these events allows us to see how the decisions of celestial and human beings and Michael's intervention shaped the perception of the sacred and the relationship between the divine and the earthly. The first clear impact is on the perception of good and evil. The rebellion of the fallen angels and the forbidden unions with their wives created a narrative framework in which disobedience and transgression had visible and dramatic consequences. Michael, by intervening, became a symbol of justice, protection, and restoration of order. This taught generations of believers that forces challenging divine authority must be contained, and that obedience and faithfulness hold unquestionable moral and spiritual value. Another important legacy is that of the Nephilim and the idea of powerful hybrids. These beings symbolize what can arise when the divine and human mix in a forbidden way, and represent both the potential and danger of transgression. Stories of the Nephilim have influenced literature, folklore, and collective imagination for centuries, inspiring tales of giants, extraordinary heroes, and beings who defy natural laws. Through these stories, humanity reflects on the limits of what is permitted and the consequences of crossing seemingly sacred boundaries. The impact is also seen in spirituality and ethics. The wives of the fallen angels and Michael's intervention serve as lessons on discernment, responsibility, and the need to maintain balance between power, knowledge, and morality. These stories remind us that decisions, even in seemingly divine or supernatural realms, have tangible repercussions, and that divine protection and guidance, represented by Michael, are key for humanity not to fall into corruption. Additionally, these narratives have influenced the interpretation of sacred texts and religious traditions. Michael's figure as protector and executor of divine justice became a model of moral and spiritual authority in many cultures. Stories about the fallen angels and their wives generated debates on the nature of evil, divine intervention, and the relationship between humans and celestial beings, questioning how obedience, transgression, and justice should be understood in a broader context. From a symbolic and esoteric viewpoint, the legacy also includes reflection on the interaction between the divine and human. The wives of the fallen angels and their descendants show how supernatural forces can influence humanity for better or worse. Michael, by intervening, not only protects humans, but also establishes boundaries that allow creation to follow an orderly path. This symbolism remains relevant in modern interpretations, teaching about balance, responsibility, and the importance of maintaining integrity in the face of powerful external influences. Finally, the legacy of these stories is reflected in human culture and imagination. From literature to cinema and philosophy, the accounts of the fallen angels, their wives, and Michael's intervention have inspired ideas about justice, power, morality, and the struggle between light and darkness. They teach that sacred history is not just an ancient tale, but a source of reflection on the human condition and the relationship with the divine. In summary, the story of the fallen angels and their wives, along with Michael's intervention, left a profound impact on humanity. It shaped our perception of good and evil, inspired stories of the forbidden and powerful, influenced spirituality and ethics, and remains a symbol of balance and divine justice. These lessons show that even the oldest and most mysterious events are relevant to understanding the world and the connection between human and divine. The story of the fallen angels, their wives, and Archangel Michael's intervention reveals hidden secrets that challenge what we thought we knew about the divine and the human. If this video surprised you and you want to continue exploring ancient mysteries and shocking revelations, subscribe to the channel, like the video to support our content, and comment below on which part impacted you the most. Your opinion enriches the conversation and helps uncover these hidden truths. Don't settle for the known. Join us in continuing to reveal the secrets history tries to hide.